Hey everybody, I'm Deb Matlock from Wild Rhythms, and I wanted to share with you something that I shared with a group of practitioners a couple weeks ago. I was asked to speak with some nature connection practitioners, and what they wanted me to talk about was, what are some of the key things you've learned after doing nature connection work for close to 30 years? And I started doing environmental ed and nature-based work in the early to mid 90s, and this is 2026. So it's been a while. I have learned so much. I feel very humbled in front of what I've learned from the participants of programs and the wild natural world that I've had the pleasure of collaborating with. But this group wanted me to pick like three or four things that I really felt like were kind of key pieces of what I've learned over these years, and I want to share them with you all here as well. And the first thing is that nature connection as an idea is kind of a paradox because we actually can't be separated from nature. If we eat, drink, breathe air, we are connecting. One of the most intimate things we can do to connect with nature is focus on what we're eating. So the idea of working professionally in a field that is a paradox is kind of interesting. But once I really got clear on that and started to share that with audiences, groups I was working with, it actually really opened up the door for so much more exploration, deeper experiences, more profound conversations. Once we realize we are never disconnected, but we can feel disconnected. We can perceive ourselves to be disconnected. And those are really important things to focus on. And that was an interesting distinction, something I've definitely learned that 30 years ago I wouldn't have probably said it that way. Another thing I've learned is that the trends and the fads in the nature connection realm are gonna move through over and over. I mean, I've seen so many over the years. Just God, I can't even, all the different ways of nature connecting. All it takes is one, reality show about primitive skills, for example, for that to be a really important focus for a certain kind of program for a certain amount of time. But underneath all of those fads, if you will, is real work, like primitive skills. That's how come we're all here, right? So there was a fad for a while with 1,000 different TV shows, but underneath all the fads is a deep foundation of connection and coevolution, and emerging as part of the natural world that is through our lineage as humans. And so, um, the practitioners that understand that and that are focused on connecting themselves, more deeply and growing that connection throughout their own lives and developing their skill set and becoming better naturalists and becoming, more attuned to the wild natural world and better able to read groups and understand how to address and change and fluctuate with what's going on in the world. Those are the people who ride the waves of trends. Those are the people that can be here for decades. A lot of my own personal mentors, I feel like they're still doing this work and they've been doing it a lot longer than I have. And they don't even care what the latest trend is. If their passion is arts-based, nature connection, they're going to keep doing it regardless. If their passion is primitive skills or their passion is, um, you know, um, adventure-based programming, whatever it is, they don't care. They're not looking for trends. They're looking for continuing to offer work that's true to who they are and what their experience has been. And I really think that is one of the most important things as practitioners we can do, is just continue to develop ourselves, continue to deepen our own sense of how we are part of this whole world, and then offering from that place. Um, so yeah, it's been interesting. Early on, I used to get kind of like, oh, there's a new trend. I gotta learn this thing. I gotta, and I realized, no, actually, I need to stay true to my work and my experience and what I'm really passionate about sharing. And that is one thing I recommend to people is what are you passionate about sharing? What comes from your soul and your heart, and share that. And then that will transcend any fads that come and go. Another thing that was really profound that I learned, and I'm so glad because it changed everything, was that I'm not really teaching anything when I'm out there with people or working with somebody one-on-one, or, I'm facilitating an experience. And the true teacher, if you will, is the wild earth and the world of spirit and the more than human world. Those are the teachers, and my job is to create a container, facilitate experience, have a skill set to be able to craft, experiences for people where there's better opportunities for them to have those deep engagements with the world around them. but that I'm not really the teacher. I'm literally a facilitator. And when I shifted that identity for myself, I started to enjoy the work more. I started to feel less pressure. Um, I started to learn more, actually. Like I really did. As soon as I realized I'm also always learning and I'm also always exploring. I started having more fun and I started to feel like, this was as much of a journey of deepening for all of us. And so when we come together to work with groups or communities, we're all in a space and time together. One of us may be facilitating and holding space and, you know, orchestrating the event and moving the flow through and all of that. But the sometimes part of our job is to have all of that dialed in so well that we can also comfortably get out of the way and let the experiences take place that are taking place between people and the places where we're working. And that's a fine line. I'm not talking about going out with no plan and having no skills and no training. That's absolutely not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about having such a good foundation and a good structure that as practitioners we can ebb and flow with our groups, our clients, our customers, our program participants in a way that we don't lose footing and we don't lose track of what we're trying to do in the program in the first place. So we're facilitating, and I love that. And the last little bit, which is surprising, early on in my career, I really felt like I loved the focusing on sensory awareness activities. I still do. I include them in most, if not all, of my programs in one way or another. But early on, I thought of sensory awareness as sort of the destination of the program. Like the purpose of the program was to become sensory aware of the place. And that may well be the purpose of programs at times. But one thing that this work has taught me is that sensory awareness is actually more like a doorway into much deeper engagement and communicative encounters with the more than human world, a deeper dance with wildness. You know, uh, um, it's like when we move into our senses, we kind of move into our animal bodies, and we start to function in a way that allows us to be very present in a place. It might slow our rhythms down and allow us to sort of match the rhythms of the place. It's sort of um, activities around our senses and deepening our sensory awareness, I think are really important in nature connection work, and they are doorways. And like I said, it doesn't mean that we're not necessarily doing programs that are just sensory focused. I mean, that may be what our group wants and that may be what we're offering. And that is really important because you're giving people the doorway, for them to go explore later. Um, but I didn't understand that when I first started. I thought the whole point was to deepen the sensory awareness, but I didn't understand why. And I have learned that over the years, and I've had the absolute honor and pleasure of watching so many people experience versions of that for themselves. Um, that it's pretty profound in my mind. So those are just a few of the key things. I mean, oh my gosh, I could talk on this topic for hours and hours, which I won't do on a YouTube video, but um, just wanted to share those few things that I just feel like are really kind of key to doing really deep, authentic, and innovative nature connection work that's going to last, that's going to transcend the trends, it's going to move with the world and not at odds with the world. The world is always changing, people are changing, places are changing, and our job as nature connection practitioners is to be aware of that and able to work within those spaces. It's very dynamic. It is definitely not a static field at all. So anyway, I hope that I enjoyed sharing that with y'all, and I'll talk with y'all later.